Greetings, YouTube. I may have told the following story before, but indulge me, it's pertinent to the video at hand. I used to take the public bus on a regular basis. I didn't have my license until I was 36. Um, and so whenever I wasn't walking, I would take the bus when I could. The bus is miserable in my town, but there were times when it did work, and for a long time, I took it to and from work on a regular basis, almost daily. Um, and I got to know quite a few of the drivers rather well. And I would have conversations with them because I was a daily rider and, I was there all the time. Um, and I was having conversations over time with this one particular driver. I don't remember her name at this point. I remember she was tall and thin. And she had never shown me the slightest hint of racism, at least to my past ignorance of true racial inequality in America. I was deeply ensconced in my white privilege and really had felt that we had moved further forward than we had. And I was not aware of the plight of non-white people in America. I really didn't know what it was like for a person of color because I hadn't listened. And a lot of the time, people of color just wouldn't talk to white people about those things out of fear. But from my limited perspective, I had never heard her utter a racist concept. And one day I mentioned that I'd never understood why people were racist because I said, let's face it, we're all Africans. When she looked at me, she literally drew her head back and looked at me and blinked. She says, I don't know about you, but I'm not African. And then it hit me. She may not be an overt racist, but there it was. At best, it could be viewed as racial chauvinism. At best. But she did not see herself in the same class as black people. And I never discussed that topic with her, and I didn't know what to say or do. I was just like, I don't know if I ever discussed anything deep with her again. But that kind of incredulous response to the idea that we are all Africans is something I have encountered again and again. Just recently, there was a discussion of racism in America. I think it might have been on the Young Turks. And one of the white supremacists threw up, talk to me about the African space program, ignoring what European peoples had done to the African continent, just completely ignoring the entire colonial era and what we had done to Africa. And the reason that the technological advances there are different than technological advances in America and Europe. I mean, utter ignorance, because they don't want to think about it, because they're racist, because they're white supremacists. And my response to this person was, I said, yeah. And I said, his base position was basically like the first person on the moon was white. I said, yeah, and the first person to walk on Earth was black. The first human being was a black African. Somewhere between 200 and 250,000 years ago, the first human walked the Earth. And they were black. The reason we aren't black, most Americans, is that we moved to areas that required us to adapt to a lack of sunlight. That's it. Our melanin levels are different. Now, I realize there are three major groups of humans, the Africanoids, the Caucanoids, and the Mongoloids, the Asiatic. Yeah, I know that's a horrible term, but that's the terms that were originally they came up with in the 19th century. But We're not separate species. We're not subspecies. We're the same species with some slight variations between us. That's it. In fact, the Caucasoids are mutants because we can still consume, uh, milk products as adults when other peoples can't, because you don't need this crap when you're an adult. You don't need milk when you're an adult. But Caucasians can consume it because we are mutants. It's not an evolutionary step so much as a simple mutation. Doesn't make us better. Our skin doesn't make us better. None of us, no branch of our human tree, no air people from anywhere on the planet are smarter or better than any other group. And at the heart of it, we are African. And in fact, outside of Africa, we're an invasive species. Africa is where we adapted to, evolved from. It's why Africa still has megafauna, because the megafauna and humans evolved together. And the megafauna on the rest of the planet didn't know what hit it when humans showed up. They didn't adapt alongside of us. And the megafauna of Africa did. That's why we still have the few bits of megafauna left, because humans are desperately trying to hunt them to extinction as well. Because you got to have those rhino horns for knife hilts and erection pills. But humans are African. And if anyone tells you differently, they're lying. They're pushing a white supremacist agenda. And it's vile. So never forget that. Never forget that at the heart of it, at your heart, you're African.